All right, guys, we're back. We're going to try this again. My name is Lizzie Pace, and I am an optimization specialist here on the Google AdSense team, and I will be leading you through optimization opportunities today. So I'm going to start from the beginning. If you were able to hear us and join us initially, you can just wait about 2 minutes and then come back, but I'm going to start from the beginning so that we can make sure we have everyone. Okay, so welcome to week 3. We're going to be talking about our optimizations opportunities today. Before we jump in, I just wanted to go through the schedule for the week so you can get a sense of what else is going on after today. So on Wednesday, tomorrow, we have Meet the AdSense Community. On Thursday, Test Your Knowledge. And on Friday, we'll be having office hours from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We really encourage you to bring your questions to the Learn with Google for Publishers community. You guys are really the experts here on what works and what doesn't and troubleshooting. If you do have questions that you want to bring to our team, again, office hours on Friday from 11 to 11:30 Pacific time. Okay, so before we sort of jump into talking about the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of optimizations, I just wanted to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start by talking about what actually drives AdSense revenue. And then we're going to go through how to boost the various inputs and outputs that create optimizations. I like to think of optimizations, though, not just as about revenue, but also about your user experience, about your traffic, and about overall site health and growth. So we'll be talking about sort of all of those components today. Before we really dive into AdSense revenue, I want to talk about some of the terms that we'll be using today. A bunch of acronyms that are very common in the industry and that you will have seen in your AdSense account. So the first one is RPM, which stands for revenue per thousand, or revenue for every 1,000 impressions. So this is an eCPM, an aggregate CPM. For instance, if you saw that you made $30 across 20,000 impressions, you would divide 30 by 20,000 and then multiply by 1,000, and that would give you the average CPM for those 20,000 impressions, and we call that the RPM. CTR stands for click-through rate, so that's the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions. It's often multiplied by 100 to give a percentage. CPC is the cost per click, or the amount that you earn as a publisher for each click. And the volume of impressions is the number of individual ads displayed. So this is different than page views because it takes into account the number of ads you have on the page, how the user is navigating, if they're actually seeing an ad. That's what counts as an impression. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, we can talk about some of actually what drives the AdSense revenue. So there are two main components that equal revenue, and I think it's easy to get caught up in either impressions or clicks, but we want to make sure that we're thinking holistically about both of these inputs. So the first component, as we just talked about, is the impression base. So that's users seeing ads. To calculate your revenue there, you do the number of impressions. So let's say I have a blog and I'm getting about 25,000 impressions per day. I would want to divide that by 1,000, which would give me 25, and multiply it by the average CPM that I'm getting across those impressions. And that's $2. So I would get $50 from my impression-based revenue. So again, thinking about users seeing ads. Then there's also the other component that advertisers are interested in, which is users clicking on ads. So rather than a 1,000-based metric here, we have just a single-click metric. So let's say I'm getting 1,000 clicks on the ads on my blog, and I'm getting about 5 cents per click. Then that also equals $50 in revenue. So together, those different inputs, the impressions and the clicks, give me my total revenue, or in this case, $100. So now that we've really understood where the different pieces of revenue are coming from, when you look in your account and you see those estimated earnings, I wanted to give you a sense of what that's comprised of. Now we can actually talk about how to boost your RPM. How do you get that impression value up? So we're going to come at this from two angles. The first is how to get more from the traffic you already have. and how to get more advertisers competing for your ad space. So these are the two components. We already want to work with the traffic. This is not about, this session is not about thinking how to drive more traffic to your site. So assuming we have this set body of traffic, how do you get more from them? And then how do you really bring the sort of attention to your site that advertisers are looking for when they're looking to spend their money? So the first thing we're going to talk about is ad sizes and types. So you might think that, once you have your ad places set up on your site, that it's really just best to pick the ad that fits the pixel space the best. And we do have so many sizes that we offer in our AdSense interface, but there are actually sizes that perform a lot better than others because there are standards in the advertising industry for the creatives they make for display. So our main standard sizes, the three that you'll hear talked about the most, are the 300 by 250 and the 160 by 600 and the 728 by 90. There are two others that I wanted to spotlight, actually three. There are two new standard sizes, so they've been sizes all along, but they're new to the standard size classification, and that's the 300 by 600, which is a super skyscraper, and a 970 by 90, which is a super leaderboard. So these are, taking advantage of folks with bigger and bigger screens, and they are now standard ad sizes, so definitely worth trying. There's also the 336 by 280, which is a even larger box ad, and as of about a month ago, the 336 by 280 now fills with either a 336 by 280 or a 300 by 250, depending on which one is higher paying. So an option to consider if you're looking for a quick optimization there. The next ad sizes and types option is to opt in to both text and image ads. So I talk to publishers about this a lot because you're thinking about your users, you're thinking about your site design, and let's say you have a beautiful image-heavy site. You're like, oh, well, image ads just fit better with my site, or text ads just fit better with my site. The benefit to opting into both is that you really increase the auction pressure. AdSense is a second price auction. So what that means is that the highest bidder pays the price of the second highest bidder when bidding on your particular ad space. So if you had an image ad advertiser that bid $2 CPM on your particular real estate, and the next highest image ad bid $1, if you're image only, you'll get $1 CPM for that placement. However, if you're opted into text and image, and the text second highest bidder bid $1.99, you still get that $2 image ad, but you get $1.99 for it. So that's why opting into both text and image is a way to increase revenue. You will see both text and image ads, but for the most part, it will you'll sort of continue to have optimized ads based on your content and user. So this is an example of our leaderboard, the 728 by 90, and we'll talk more about placement going forward. The second part of how to boost your RPM is thinking about where on the page you're placing these different ads that we talked about just now. I think one of the main components here is depending on your vertical, depending on your users, there's no one fix for every site that works best. So my advice to publishers is always to run tests. Always experiment with different placements and different sizes so that you can really get a sense of what works for your users. We like to think of advertising here for our publishers as benefiting the user as opposed to distracting or detracting from the experience. So we want to know what pleases your users and what helps sort of complement your site. Some of my sort of basic optimizations that I start with when working with a publisher is thinking about, let's assume, basic, we just want to start with 3 different sizes, a leaderboard and a skyscraper and a box ad. One of the things that I really like to incorporate, the ideas I like to incorporate is ad blindness, and it's something that we want to avoid. So users now are so inundated with different web pages and different formats and different ads that there are places on the page where they really don't see the ad or they can easily scroll away from the ad. So if you are using a leaderboard, the 728 by 90 at the top of the page, think about moving it down below the navigation bar or down below the piece of content. As long as you don't have anything covering the ad, we want to make sure that the ads are really integrated with the content in a way that makes it clear they're still ads, but really brings the user's eye and their click to that real estate. So we'll talk even more about that later. But there is the option when you are placing ads to create custom channels in your AdSense account. So there's more information about how to actually do this in the AdSense Help Center. But when you create a custom channel, so let's say you have a section of your site that's all sports inventory, you can group those ad units into a sports custom channel, and you can make it available to advertisers by opting into placement targeting. So in other words, if advertisers target your site and they only want the sports part of your inventory, they can use that custom channel to bid on that particular slice of real estate. Another really basic optimization is to place your most valuable ad first in your HTML code. So if you know that your skyscraper is your highest performing ad, put that set of code first in your HTML, and it will boost the auction attention on that ad unit. Okay, the other thing that we want to think about is to be careful when blocking. So again, this is one of those push and pull items around we want your users to have the best experience possible in terms of how you see fit. But we also need to know that the more categories and advertisers you block, the less competition there is for your ad space. So that's just purely input and output. So again, just think carefully when you're blocking those options. And you know, if you really don't need to block a whole vertical, maybe you can block individual advertisers instead, and sort of keep the auction open to as many buyers as possible. Okay, so now that we've talked about what drives AdSense revenue and how to boost your RPM, we're going to think about the other component to what drives your revenue, and that's your click-through rate. So I started touching on some of this a little bit when thinking about where to place the different ads, and so we're going to go back to that sort of topic and think about where is the click attention of the user. And this applies to impressions as well. So one of the things we think about a lot in ad placement is balancing above the fold and below the fold, balancing content with ads, and making sure that we keep our ads near the navigation but not where the drop downs could cover the ads. You can see it's a definite balance here. So when we talk about above the fold, for those of you that might be new to hosting a site, we're talking about on a standard screen what appears before you scroll. So we call that, and it comes from obviously newspaper era, when you have above the fold or below the fold. So ads above the fold will generally do better because they tend to get more impressions. They also tend to be places of higher user activity. That said, I would not recommend putting all 3 of your AdSense ads above the fold. I would recommend 1 or 2 above the fold and 1 or 2 below the fold. We want to focus also on breaking up large sections of text. So a user, just like when you're reading a book and there's a picture, it's used to break up the reading, give your brain a break, give it something else to focus on if that's what the user is interested in. We also have some great recommended site layouts on the AdSense Help Center based on vertical. So if you're an e-commerce site or if you're an article site, there are a bunch of different sort of suggestions on how you can place your ads based on experience in your vertical. Again, I just want to emphasize that you know, we do really like to see that 728 by 90 below the navigation bar, or you know, a 160 by 600 below your left side navigation, but we really need to make sure that drop downs do not cover the ad. That encourages accidental clicks and is not a good experience for our advertisers or our users. So just as you're placing, make sure to keep that in mind. Okay, and continuing to think about how to increase your CTR, we want to think about different ways that you can use color. We can use it by matching or contrasting or blending. And so there's different ways to make your ad content pop off the page. And so you can see here some different examples, and you have the power in your AdSense account to control how these different colors match your content or contrast your content or blend with your content. So again, here are 3 visual examples of what that might look like. It'll obviously differ, but they all are ways to draw the user to the ad. We just want to make sure, again, that you're not making your content look like ads. We want the ads to stand out, but they can stand out in each of these different ways. There's, again, much more information about you know, how exactly these 3 different techniques can work to boost your ad click-throughs. Okay, next we're going to think about ad targeting. So this is, you know, how we think about bringing advertisers' attention to your real estate. How do we get your real estate in the eyes of advertisers? So one of the sort of key components that's begun to develop around targeting is to that users are more likely to engage with targeted ads. So in other words, we are really focusing on contextual targeting. So for instance, ads that are targeted to fit the content of your page, or ads that are remarketed, so that are targeted to other places the user has been based on their cookies. In order to really focus on the first one, contextual targeting, since that's what you can control, that's the amount that the ad can match your content, whether it's the text content or the title content or what have you. We need to make sure that the AdSense crawler can review your site. So in the access and authorization component of your AdSense account, you can go and view crawler errors. If you do have crawler errors, there's again an article about this in the Help Center, but we want to make sure that the robots.txt file can access all of your pages. So again, there's much more information about how to embed in your code the access to our crawler, and we want to make sure that that's happening so that your ads are as targeted as possible. Advertisers will definitely be more attracted to that option. And just before we go on to maximizing your coverage, I get a lot of questions about ad targeting. Our crawlers cannot read images. So while you might still get remarketed ads that are relevant to the user, making sure that you have relevant text on almost all or all of your pages will really help create those targeted ads. So for instance, I was talking to a cooking site the other day, and they really wanted targeted cooking ads, but they weren't getting, they were mostly getting their advertiser attention through remarketing. And so I was able to tell them 2 things. One is that advertiser spend is really trending towards remarketing. It is where they are feeling like they're really getting users to engage. So that sort of floodgates are open there, and so I think just like embracing the user experience component of that, and that really is what the user often prefers. The other thing that I told them was finding a way to incorporate more relevant text onto each of their pages. They had these beautiful images, and I really loved that they were focusing on that. But in order to really do what they wanted, which was super targeted cooking and food ads, they really needed to boost their text. Okay, going on to maximizing your coverage. So in AdSense, as you likely already know, we allow up to 3 ads, that's display ads, text and image, per page. We also allow 3 additional link units per page. Link units are not as optimal as display units because they require 2 clicks for the user to get to a destination and for you to get paid. You click on the link, it goes to a search results page, and then you have to click again. So certainly worth having, especially on you know, some text-heavy sites where the user's attention might easily go to these link units. We want to focus on placing these 3 ads as optimally, the 3 display ads as optimally as possible. So there are a couple of different ways that I like to think about maximizing your coverage. besides to place those 3 ads. One is to add search functionality. So we do have products, custom search ads as well as custom search engine that allow you to use the Google.com-esque text ads that are really targeted to a user query. So for instance, if I'm on that cooking site and I search for spatula, well, maybe there are no recipes about spatulas, but some relevant-ish results. But then I can also have these ads that will offer advertisements that are targeted to the word spatula. So even though the user might not find what they're looking for in the search results of the site, they might find what they're looking for in the ad content. So again, a way to really easily boost your ad placements and benefit the user. You can, like traditional text ads, you can customize the look and feel of the results here to match your site. Again, more info about how to implement this on the AdSense Help Center. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to talk about getting more traffic to your site. So I mentioned that that wasn't really the focus of optimization, but I get a lot of questions about it, especially regarding SEO, really increasing sort of site health by getting more traffic. And the other thing about getting more traffic is that there are really healthy ways to get traffic and not healthy ways to get traffic, and both the AdWords and the AdSense teams are very rigorous about making sure traffic is healthy. So we want to make sure you have access to resources to increase healthy traffic. So some of those sort of top tips there is to create high quality, original, and fresh content. So that might seem sort of obvious, but really paying attention to trends in user experience and user interface, getting on board with responsive design, making sure that you have a site that's beautiful on a tablet, on a mobile phone, on a desktop. Gone are the days when just like plain old text sites will catch the eye of the user and make them want to come back. Another thing, so in terms of continuing that, is building a site your users love. Get some feedback from your users. Find ways to really look for what they're looking for in your site, whether that's through some sort of comment submission or what have you. Get some feedback from your users on how the site should look and feel. We do have some advice and tips in terms of search results ranking at google.com/webmasters. It does remain a pretty black box for both me and you in terms of exactly what it is you can do to improve your search ranking, and that's just to protect the health of search. But there are some tips on google.com/webmasters. Again, opt into AdSense account messaging. So we do send out some great messaging on the latest developments in bringing traffic to your site and improving your site health. And don't forget, this is a big one, social media. So thinking about Google Plus and other social options. So they have so many ways to incorporate the other social networks into your site and really allow your users to share what they love about your content. Okay, guys, well, thank you so much for sticking with us. The rest of the week, again, we have Meet the AdSense Community tomorrow, Test Your Knowledge on Thursday, and Office Hours on Friday. Next week, we have the Make Better Decisions with Google Analytics, which is one of my very favorite products, besides AdSense, of course. And I just really appreciate you all sticking with us, and we would love to see you for our other sessions. Thanks so much, guys.